Welcome po to another episode of the Law, Life, and Love podcast. And for this episode ng Buhay Mo, ang pag-usapan naman po natin 5 things that I think young lawyers should not do. So samahan niyo po ako at discuss po natin ito. So thank you for joining us for another episode. Being in the practice for about 5 years, nais ko lang ibahagi yung, I think, 5 mga bagay, and this would be speaking from experience, ng 5 mga bagay na I think na hindi dapat gawin ng mga bagong abogado. And admittedly, no, even if I have been in the practice for the past 5 years, I think marami sa mga bagay na ito patuloy ko pa rin sinasabi sa sarili ko. So, let's discuss these things. Ano ba itong 5 bagay that I think every young lawyer should avoid to do? Unang-una, don't chase the money. So, alam ko po, this would be very difficult for most of us, especially as most lawyers in the Philippines do not really come from very affluent backgrounds, or they are not born rich. And for a lawyer like me, I came from a not so rich family. No, I would consider ourselves middle class. I am the first lawyer in the family. Actually, my parents were financially struggling, putting me up through college. So, in fact, I had to stop. No, I started taking up computer science at the University of Santo Tomas, and then I stopped. I then worked sa McDonald's, and then I transferred and worked as a real estate consultant, no, property consultant for a certain developer in the Philippines. And then after that, I was able to go through night school sa Binild, but then I eventually stopped. So medyo mahaba yung karera ko pagdating sa college. And then I started law school. Actually, I was already 26, no, and that was through the blessing, no, that my pastor, no, helped me go through law school. So when I finished law school, and as I was going through review, sakto naman din, I was going through some financial struggles because I was going through my, separation. And being separated wasn't easy. Suddenly, I had to, take the bulk ng mga financial burdens. And it was really difficult for me. So I was really, in a sense, chasing after the money. And the reason why I would like to tell this as something that we shouldn't do, I think ang mas valuable, if given the chance between experience and higher salary, always choose experience. I would tell this because, when I was looking for an underbar na trabaho, I had the choice between going sa isang tax firm or joining a government agency. At that time, the salary dun sa tax firm was higher, no? Kasi meron silang mga tax shield, so neneto ko ng mas malaki. And because I was trying to provide for my family, I was really chasing after the money. And many of the subsequent decisions that I've made, no, in my career, parang yun yung nagiging lagi. I was always, trying to look for the better compensation. And that actually made me suffer then in some sense, no? Kasi, for example, yung isang nilet go ko, eventually, one of the partners in that firm became the director general of a government agency. May isa rin akong naging pagkakataon before. I was made to choose between this particular firm, which would pay me higher, and then, or join this agency. And that agency, yung isa sa mga halos kasabayan ko na pumasok doon, was appointed as a commissioner. So, yung mga ganong bagay, no? So, sometimes we become short-sighted na ang nakikita lang natin is yung immediate, no? But then, let us remember that in this practice, we are in this because this is a profession. No? So, dahil this is a profession, we need to build experience. And with experience comes yung value natin. And yun yung doon, sapagkat sometimes it's easy for us to actually fall into that trap na kung ano yung mas may mataas na sahod, yun yung ating pipiliin. But then, come to realize, after, parang there's a point na ngayon, looking at some of my contemporaries who passed the bar, the 2017 bar, no? Some of them even have higher salaries than me. And, they remained in the same job, they built their experience. So, maganda na rin yung kanilang kalalagayan. So, yun yung una, no? I think we should not chase after the money. Pangalawa, ano naman ang pangalawang tingin kong hindi dapat gawin ng isang abogado? Ito naman, looking for prestige or glamour. So, it's unavoidable being in this practice. I know, parang it's all about the looks, it's all about the watch you wear, the clothes you wear, the shoes that you wear, the car that you drive, your bag, and sometimes kasama na rin dyan yung pagkatiningnan natin. Napakaganda, no? Pag sinabing abogado, may magandang opisina, there's this expansive library, tapos wood touches, glass panels, and all those sorts, no? So it's easy to really, when you become a lawyer, you try to choose something that would bring prestige and glamour. But then, gaya nga nung sinabi ko kanina, no, yung hindi yun yung pinaka-importante. Because hindi yung sometimes it's not the prestigious na mga firms that where you will learn. And I'm saying this because sometimes if you join a small law firm or you start your practice on your own, you actually gain more experience than those who join prestigious law firms or prestigious corporations. Why am I saying that? Kasi ikaw, you get to experience the whole practice. When I say you get to experience the whole practice, you type your own pleading, you print your own pleading, you prepare the affidavit of service, you go down to the post office, you personally serve. Pagka meron ka mga transactions with government agencies, you get to experience the red tape, you learn the ropes, so to speak. And that's very valuable because when you later decide to join a law firm or decide to join a corporation or you just decide to expand your own private practice, those are very valuable experiences kasi never kang maloloko. Hindi ka maloloko ng staff mo, hindi ka maloloko ng associates mo because alam mo at pinagdaanan mo yung mga bagay na yon. And that is very, very important. And I always say this, the first 5 years of practice, I think okay lang na magkamali. There was so much pressure sa akin because when I became a lawyer, I was already 31, 32. Kaka 5 years ko lang last year in practice. I passed 2018, but then I'm now turning 40 this year. So there's so much pressure for me to actually be at the same level as my contemporaries age-wise because I started law school late na, no? So, nandun yung ganong mga problema. But then, always remember, hindi yung prestige ang pinaka-importante. Sometimes, learning to do yung mga menial tasks, being able to experience those things, and learning the ropes, those are very important things that you should consider when looking for a job or when deciding to join a particular firm, a company, or doing your own practice. So parang ganun siya, no? That's how I look at putting value dun sa prestige. So pag inuna natin yung prestige, yung glamour of the practice, sometimes that's what we miss out, no? Kasi we tend to focus dun sa things that we may have, di ba? Our appearance and everything that comes with it. Pero remember, in our practice, kumbaga tayo, we expand our practice because of word of mouth. Our value is not, and I know this is very difficult because I have experienced this. When you come to court, for example, when you face a client, for example, they always think that your value is equal to at least what you're driving. So for example, I drive a Mercedes-Benz. Parang I am justified to ask for, X amount of acceptance fee if I'm just driving a normal car. Pero don't fall into that trap. If you put value and premium dun sa what you do and how you build your practice and how you first improve yourself and your expertise, then the glamour and the prestige would come later. Those are, kumbaga, I don't want to sound, but those are temporal things that we can just put away. Kasi, remember, if you build your practice, um, people will see your value. People will appreciate the expertise that you bring to the table. And when you do that, necessarily, your value and the money would follow. So prestige and glamour, you can think about those things later. So, ano naman yung pangatlo? Third naman, I think, ito isa ring malaking problema. No? It's finding the grass greener at the other side. People leave because they think that the grass is greener on the other side. It will always be greener on the other side because it's not your own grass. When you tend to compare yourself and see at the other opportunities, magiging problema yan. Kasi what would happen is, you would skip from one job to the other. And, I'm not only speaking dahil gusto ko lang ibigay itong tip na to, but I myself, I experienced that. Now, that may be some sort of an advantage for me because parang less than a year, I was an underbar for a tax firm. So I learned some tax practice, and then I joined a law firm and then learned some litigation practice and corporate practice. Then I joined government service, a uniform service agency. So I also learned some sort of, the nuances ng uniform service and government practice. And then I decided to transfer to the public attorney's office where I am now. But in between that, I actually joined another IT firm. Doon naman, I did contract review and I did contract management. So those were the things that I learned. Yes, I learned a lot of things. And in a way, I can say like I am a jack of all trades, but I'm not a master of anything. So I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So in comparison, if I compare myself to my other friends, to my other colleagues who have stayed in the same job and who has been there for the past 5 years, or even if they have transferred for at least one or two jobs in between yung kanilang 5-year practice, but focusing on the same niche, then I would say that they would have more experience than me. I know a bit of everything. I know a bit of tax. I know a bit of litigation. I know a bit of corporate practice. But those who, for example, joined the law firm, focused on corporate practice, and then became in-house counsels, they are more experienced. There are things that they know more than me, and those are more valuable now. So if I would look at our, kumbaga, if we would put value or premium dun sa aming experiences, they would have more premium. For example, they know how to transact with the BSP, they know how to review contracts when it comes to, for example, mga fintechs and, for example, online lending apps, and yung mga nuances ng ganung practice. They know how to deal with SEC. Now ako, I have a general understanding. I have a bit of a background, but then I don't have that extensive experience. I can probably, tell the client that this is what we should do, but then yung actual na the paperwork, I don't know those because hindi ko pa siya na-experience. But then yun nga, in terms of variety, I would have more variety. So if I would compare that, for example, would you rather, for example, if you're looking for a particular product, let's say eggs, would you go to a sari-sari store or would you go to a wholesale store selling just eggs and rice? Kasi if you're for example a big business, restaurant for example, and you're looking for eggs, you'll definitely look for a supplier who knows the business of eggs. So you'll probably go to a wholesaler, not to a small sari-sari store. If you're a small business, if you're just a residential home, then you'll probably go to the sari-sari store and get a piece of egg. So, don't fall into the trap na you always look at the opportunities on the other side as something that's better than what you are doing. Just continue to build your practice. Just continue to do what you're doing. Just make sure that it's something that you are comfortable with, something that you're happy to do. So if you're happy to do that, just continue doing it. Actually, ang pinakamaganda din dyan, have Kung the earliest possible time that you can focus yourself dun sa gusto mong gawin, the better. I'll give myself as an example. I was confused because when you graduate, actually, after graduating law school, there are so many opportunities. Parang, imagine, every government agency needs a lawyer. May legal department yan. So, ano bang gusto mong maging expertise? Gusto mong maging environmental lawyer? You can join the DANR. Gusto mong maging expert when it comes to corpo? You can enter SEC. There's data privacy. There's, for example, telecommunications. So, sobrang daming mga pwedeng pasukan ng mga agencies and sobrang dami rin ng mga pwedeng pasukang trabaho. Now, if it's not clear to you what you want, you'll be wasting time. Anong ibibigay ko example? For example, um, later in my practice, parang in my third year, I decided to join the public attorney's office. Why did I join the public attorney's office? Because it would give me much experience. And because I realized I wanted to be either a prosecutor or a judge. So yun yung pinakamagandang stepping ground. And ngayon as I work as a public attorney, nare-realize ko, no, it's really helping me prepare not only because of the volume of work, but the people you encounter, 'di ba? The things that you do. Kasi yan yung mga magkakasama lagi in court, the judge, the prosecutor, and yung PAO. So you get to see the interaction. And that's building valuable experience. Now, hindi ko sinasabang sayang yung ginugol ko sa ibang ano. But imagine if I started with PAO immediately, then the fifth year of my practice, mas marami na akong naging experience sa public attorney which would help me become a prosecutor, a judge. Which is very different dahil I gained so much experience. Like, for example, I went into tax practice, a bit of litigation, a bit of commercial practice, yung mga ganong mga bagay. So, imagine, kung yun naman ang, for example naman, baligtarin natin, you spent your time with the public attorney's office, but eventually, what you really want to do is become a corporate lawyer or engage in private practice. Then, you'll be missing time na you could have built your practice because you're dealing with indigent clients or you're not expanding your network. Tapos, for example, if you would like to do private practice, you would like to do corporate work, that's something that you have not learned because in the public attorney's office, we don't do corporate practice. So, in some sense, parang you waste your time. So, doon din mapasok yung sinasabi ko na don't fall into that trap of thinking that the grass is always greener on the other side. Don't look at the other opportunities. Focus on what you're doing. If you like what you're doing, if that would help you with your end goal, then stay dun sa trabaho na yun. So, ano naman yung fourth? Fourth is failing to socialize. So, anong ibig sabihin ko rito? Believe it or not, the practice of being a lawyer is highly dependent on the network that you build. It's because we don't do advertisement. So, as you're well aware, if you have graduated from law school, there are cases, di ba, plethora of cases actually in ethics that tells us na kung ano lang yung acceptable na form of advertisement, no? Calling cards, for example, di ba, law list. Pero we don't really put up billboards, we don't put up social media ads, and we mostly acquire yung ating clients through word of mouth. So, ibig sabihin, we continuously need to socialize and network. So, myself, I am an introvert. So, I would rather stay at home than, for example, be at social gatherings. Pero, yun yung magiging problema doon. Kasi if you don't do that, if you fail to do that, then you won't be able to build your practice. Now, dito rin papasok. For example, would you like to engage yourself in private practice? Would you like to build yourself in corporate practice? Would you like to focus, for example, in labor? Kasi you'll also get to meet the client, not only the clients, but the experts in those fields. So when you get to experience, 'di ba, mingling with them, nagra-rub off din sa'yo yung ano nila eh. You get to acquire their expertise. You get to have your own mentor. So napaka-importante niyan sa practice kasi it's very difficult to be an island as a lawyer. Kasi believe it or not, in most of our engagements, whether it's in government transactions, kunwari we do something with the SEC, we do something with BIR, we need to socialize. We need to build our network. And yun yung, kumbaga, hindi mga bagay na natuturo sa atin sa law school. Hindi natin siya na-acquire sa law school. But then we learn it through practice. So, very important for us to socialize. Diba? Unless, of course, judge tayo and of course, mas limited yung ating engagement sa socialization, di ba? Kasi nandun yung possibility ng conflict of interest. But for lawyers, if you're engaging in private practice or in a government agency or in corporate practice as an in-house counsel, for example, lahat yan importante that you keep your network. Network of friends na lawyers, network of friends in different government agencies, and you can only do that if you open yourself to socializing. So, pag di ka nag-socialize, pag nasa isip mo lang, like for me, parang pag-uwi ko, gusto ko lang, for example, mag-games or mag-ano, then your social network becomes limited, then you also face difficulty in practice. Kasi the more expansive your network is, the more people you can ask for questions. And dito papasok na, for example, timely, a few years ago, during the pandemic na simulan yung mga Facebook groups like Abogadong Pinoy, Musta Attorney. And joining those groups, you would see yung interaction ng mga abogado because you tend to socialize and network and ask people for assistance, ask people for advice, ask mentors, ask the experts. At hindi lang yun, you tend to share jokes with fellow lawyers who understand the profession. So that's why it's very important in our profession, and if you become a lawyer and you're a new lawyer, that you always spend time socializing, spend time networking. So, fifth. Ang fifth naman is run your own race. Now, this is similar to yung seeing the grass greener at the other side. But dito naman, ang gusto ko namang i-emphasize dito, you are running your own race, which means you have your own lane and you have your own pace. Don't compare yourself, not yung isa kasi yung the grass is greener on the other side is looking at other opportunities. Parang, oy, I'm missing out on that opportunity, lilipat na lang ako doon. Or ito na lang yung gagawin ko, parang mas malaki yung kita. Or ito na lang yung gagawin ko, baka mas may chance ng promotion. Dito naman, you stay on your lane. Because the tendency is for us to compare ourselves with our colleagues, when you get together and socialize, o sabihin niya, oh, no, na-promote na ako, or ito, I was given this opportunity to study abroad. And then you would always look at yourself na parang, am I too slow in my pace? Am I running my race right? Diba? So pag nakatingin ka sa ibang tao as you run your race, the tendency is for you to fall. So if you run your own race, focus on your own track. Kaya kanina sabi ko, di ba, what's your end goal? Ito ba yung end goal mo? Is this what you would like to be? A very successful in-house counsel? An expert in, for example, BSP transactions? An expert in putting up businesses, mergers and acquisitions, tax practice, litigator? Then focus on that. Run that race. And then, don't be pressured by the pace of others. Sige, they may be running faster than you. That's okay. Because, legal practice and this profession is not a race. It's actually a marathon. So you're running your own marathon, and until your retirement age, that's up for you to decide when you would retire. Or it's up to the time that you die. So there's really no rush for you to, run as fast as them. So if you have your own pace, if this is the pace that you're running, that you're improving yourself, that you're building your network, that you're improving your practice, then focus on doing that. Keep that pace. As long as you keep that pace, you would eventually meet your goals. It doesn't matter if he's faster reaching 1 kilometer in 3 minutes and you're able to reach it in 5. The fact is, you're both able to reach 1 kilometer. Yes, it took you more time, but it doesn't mean that you didn't reach that goal. So, ganun din dito in practice. So, yan po ang aking 5 tips or 5 things that I think young lawyers shouldn't do. So, I hope may natutunan po kayo. And of course, if you like more content like this, please comment if you have questions, and please subscribe to this channel. Maraming salamat po. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Hebrews 12:1, wherefore seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us.